Hey, I'm Michael Wenning, co-founder of Passive. 70% of people would take a better job tomorrow if job hunting didn't suck. That's why we built Passive. Our AI learns what you like and keeps surfacing smarter matches and opportunities. It pulls in company culture, perks, and reviews so you can research in seconds. And when you're ready, tailors your resume instantly to beat the filters and land interviews faster. Download Passive on iOS and let opportunity find you.
It is a hard environment if you're not in that category. Look, raising capital was always tough. It's just a little bit easier when there's a boom period. You are the story as a founder, right? I think people need to make sure that they remember that because, how you present, how you communicate, the clarity of your vision is super important. The problem on the other side is where you have a builder who's not, an extrovert or has not been through this motion of learning how to pitch their company and be really out there. The lawsuits are real. There's a camp that says, they will be dismissed. There's a camp that's not on the vendor camp that says they're going to have to settle it and it's going to set a precedent. If you're going to say AI, then say why your AI is different.
Hey, this is William Tincup and Ryan Leary. You are listening, hopefully watching, the You Should Know podcast. We've got Oz on today from ADP. We're going to learn a whole lot about what he's doing and they're doing. Can't wait to get into it. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I figured you would want to learn what I'm doing.
No, not at all.
And how I'm doing.
Could care less. So, why don't you start out, Oz, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, Oz Khan. I lead ADP Ventures. So it's the innovation arm of ADP. We invest in early stage companies. We partner with them, and we also have a product lab where we build stuff. So that's what I do.
I've heard lots of cool things about your lab side. On the venture side, what type of deals sizes are we looking at?
So we typically look for Series A through C. Yeah. So you built something, you've got product market fit, you kind of know what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Series A isn't the Series A of 5 years ago. You can get way up there in the Series A. So
We've seen
those
some big
numbers.
ones.
Oh my God, crazy! George just reported out on less deals but higher deals. I don't know if you saw that. If you saw that or not. Anyhow, Ryan, what's top of your mind? What's going on with you?
With me,
Yeah, you're.
I'm ready to learn. I mean,
Let's
I'm
go.
I'm
Ask a
ready. I'm
question.
ready to drive in. So I really what I want to know. I want to kick off with is what are you seeing in the market today? What's coming across your desk that's interesting?
Yeah, it's really a tale of two cities right now. I feel um, just independent of my desk, right? And it's like you've got companies that are right before the advent of generative AI. So it's the pre-AI vintage, the pre-COVID vintage, that have built sustainable SaaS businesses, or we're getting started in the 2021 era where there was a lot of exuberance in the market, that are running headfirst into a very very selective VC market.
Right.
Um, and the other city is you have an explosive growth, AI native, um, reasonably proprietary moat company, and you've got everyone piling in to hand you capital, right? And so the it is a hard environment if you're not in that category. Look, raising capital was always tough. It's just a little bit easier when there's a boom period and there's a lot of investor sentiment to go into companies that seem interesting. But when you end up in a cycle where people get a bit more conservative about, or they really want to concentrate their bets, then it becomes a bit different. And so in terms of what we're seeing, look, the fundamentals of work that is done at organizations, especially in HR tech, is more or less the same, right? I need to recruit people, right? I need to onboard people. I need to reward them. I need to do their performance management and so on and so forth. Those categories are more or less consistent, and we see those companies growing. Although, how they access capital and how they access growth in domain is a different story. And as a strategic, we look to see where one of those might fit with us, and it might even be a later stage like Series C or Series D company, right? And they would be a logo that's well known to the market. It would be a pre-2020 vintage, but we'll still look at it because it's an opportunity to partner and put something special together alongside one of our systems. On the Series A side, when you're looking at new stuff, I think that's where there is a lot more bias towards, hey, how AI native is this, right?
Right.
Or at least like how AI infused is this, in terms of what it does and what it delivers. Either you're building a semantic layer, or you're an agent platform, or you're an ICRA platform that leverages a lot of AI and data science to come up with the right selections for that sort of stuff is very, very interesting for us. And so that's where we've been looking. And then the other place that's also I would say new for us is outside the United States, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of founders doing really, really interesting work. We invested in a company in Mexico. We hope to do more international deals. I think the HCM domain outside the US is fascinating, and it's still early there, right? Like we're a mature market here, but there it's still pretty early.
So is the financial model for AI native different than a SaaS financial model?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. What's
It's
the
almost like
differences?
they get looked at differently in the sense that when it's truly felt like you've got annual recurring revenue growth, ARR growth, is the key test there, right? So if you say you're AI native, you're slightly SaaS like, you might get a SaaS valuation even if you look AI native, if your ARR is following that path of, hey, in the first year I made $1.5 million, right? Post pre-seed, to the point where I'm starting to prep for a seed or a Series A. And then the next year I'll do two, and then the year after I'll do four, and then that's like a SaaS path, right? They'll get you a SaaS trajectory. The AI native ones are the ones that are very, very easy to install. It doesn't take a lot of context to sign up for the product, and you figured out distribution and channels alongside your AI nativity, or at least like you have this hot demand where other tech companies will rapidly start to buy your product. And so that's where you see, okay, might be acceptable for you to do 1 to 2 in the first year, but the next year we're looking at 10, right? And when you have that growth chart, that's when you'll have like the Bessemers and Reasons of the world, especially the ones that are really doubling down on AI native companies, come down and be like, we love this. Anything less than that, you might not get the valuation that you're looking for. Like there's still a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of funds that are smaller, more specialty funds. So if you have a good story and you have a good business and it's defensible, and you can show that you're making product market fit, and that you'll be able to break through. There's like two marks for an early stage company. In my head, there's a $2 million mark, right? If you break through that, you can prove you have more scale. The second one comes like close to the $10 million mark, because a lot of these companies, you'll find, California is full of them, that actually New York as well, where they've got 10 to 15 million in revenue, and they've raised like 200 million, and it's been 3 to 4 years, or 5 years, and it's just like, that's not a great place to be right now.
Yeah. So, all right. So I've got two questions. I want to take them in any order. We can come back to it. William and I always talk about when we're talking tech and we're talking with others, a lot of other interviews, build versus buy. And so I'm curious to get your thoughts on companies build versus buy in terms of tech. But then the second question, because you just brought this up, if you have a good story to tell, then you can move forward. What is that story? How does a company in that position craft that story? What's the story that you're actually looking for?
Yeah. So I'll start with build versus buy, and bring me back to the story, because I might get scattered brain and go down a rabbit hole. So on the build versus buy for a strategic, that's like, if you get it right, it can be a massive strength. If you don't, it can be the bane of your existence being in corporate innovation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're battling your own people and you're battling the market to make sure that you create value. And that's not a good place to be in. So we were pretty thoughtful about how we did this. And I think, quite honestly, it goes all the way to the top, right? So I don't know if you've familiar with Srini or like his leader of global product. He's a leader of global product and technology. I think just his approach has always been to work with all of us, his directs on the build buy partner strategy, where we feel very strongly that if it is a core asset that we need to build on top of, that needs to have our own proprietary lens on compliance and just like the controls that we want, and how core it is to the business, it's a build. Where the debates on buy happen is where it's an extension, where are we going to do a very thorough job of building this, or is it going to be a sideshow, or we're going to do something, quite frankly, it's like just good enough, right? Just good enough also works, by the way. If it's functional, it gets the job done, it's fine. It's like, are you okay with a Toyota Camry, or do you really need a Ferrari, right? And if the Camry does the job, then it's fine, right? But a lot of these companies, they go out to build a Ferrari, and that's what they want to do, and that's okay. And so that's where we're pretty thoughtful about how that paradigm shifts out. It goes into product strategy, it goes into roadmap discussions, and so from those signals is actually where we build our, I'll call them theses and sourcing pipelines, and that lends itself quite well to either bringing extensibility to things that are being built, or to bring net new things that we're just not going to have bandwidth to build. You might be the largest HCM player in the market, ADP, with your distribution, but you can't build everything, right? It's just impossible. And so I think that's been
and nor should you, by the way.
should you, because it's like you're going to dilute yourself. You're going to have an overly distributed budget. I mean, here's the thing: your core products are up against. I lose count of how many competitors so we have. But
Yeah,
they're like
you and me
focused.
both.
They're just laser focused with all their R&D on one pressure point, which is their HCM platform, and that's it, right? And so the more money you dilute away from yours, the more you're setting yourself back.
Right. So let me ask you a question on kind of the marketplace. So a lot of what we see kind of in corporate venture funds in the space is they start out with, let's get you into our marketplace. First things first, before we start talking about funding, let's get you in there and let's get you, let's have some clients together, et cetera. Let's see how we work together, et cetera. When the conversation moves to the venture side, then it's what do you get as a startup or as a company that in the marketplace being successful? Do you turn them on to the rest of the ADP customers or customers that would fit them, etc.? Like, what do they get other than money?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, money's important. Got it stated and covered. But if you're getting strategic funds from, let's just stick with ADP, I would hope that you turn me on to customers, and help me get more customers. That makes the valuation, that makes us, everybody wins if we've got the money in. So I'm asking a question from an entrepreneur perspective. I've got a startup, it's AI, native, etc. I'm in your marketplace. I start there. We've rolled out, we got 100 customers together. Okay, cool. And then the venture side says, you know what? We really, really like what you're doing. We we want to put some money in. Are you thinking about raising around? Are you already raising around, etc.? What do they get?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it goes back to the question about like what does great look like in order to deserve getting to the top of to the bottom of the funnel, I suppose. I think for us it's been a lot of energy spent in setting up our operating model, which is, I mean, it is similar, but it is different in some sense from a lot of other strategics. We
Right.
like to take our time.
Yep.
And when I say we like to take our time, it's like we like to POC, we like to observe, we like to test the product, we like to experts like Naomi and her team get their hands on folks' products, and then build a point of view that, hey, this is real, or it might very well be real, but you have to remember, we're an organization that's been around for 75 years, and there's operating processes, there's ways people work, there's ways we distribute. We're massively successful at it, and so it's almost, there's what I'll call the grain, and if you can go with the grain, awesome. But you might have a great product, and if you go against the grain, it's just going to end in tears for everyone. And so we spend a lot of time validating if that's the case, and we also get time to see that we can, in addition to the capital, we're actually measured in my function a lot on mutual revenue created. And so to create mutual revenue, you need an integration deeper than the marketplace. You need embeddability, you need to be in the stack, and that's how pretty much all of our portfolio companies have been working with ADP, right? And so in addition to capital, you get distribution, you get embeddability, you get far more of a treatment than you would on marketplace. But marketplace is fantastic, by the way. But at the same time, it's like it is a marketplace, right?
That's right.
What you get out of it is going to be what you invest in, right?
So, quick question, Ryan, before you ask yours, and it's just a clarifying question for the audience. So, you look at it on a couple levels. You make sure that there's a product fit with ADP, an opportunity there, but you're also looking at a cultural fit, it seems, from the entrepreneur and the team and things like that. So, did I get that right?
You did get that right. That is
Okay.
that is so important, because
Okay.
Think about it from our perspective, right? You put in all this effort, you get all these people aligned around a company that you're bringing in from the outside. You want to make sure that the founders are going to gel with all the stakeholders that they're going to work on our side. You want to make sure that culturally, should there ever be a strategic conversation down the road, you could see them as being part. And look, let's be real. Most CVCs only end up acquiring single-digit percentages of their portfolio. We're relatively new. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I think our focus. We do ask ourselves the question: could we ever see you as being part of ADP? And sometimes the answer is no, and that's perfectly okay. But the culture of the company, the way the founders work, the way they interact with our folks is very, very important, because that's what is going to determine whether a partnership is genial and successful.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the story question that I had, because I think that's important to some of these founders. How do they build the story? What is it that you're actually looking to hear from them? So they're not just like walking into a Shark Tank type pitch, right? Like this is real life. It's not TV.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, not made for TV. What is it that they really need?
Yeah, it's like a combination of so many things, right? Like, I mean, it's not quite death by a thousand cuts, but there's a couple of dimensions that I think have to be strong. First of all, I got to be really real here. What your background is and who you are matters, because at the end of the day, it's a little bit like a job interview, right? Especially in the early days. Like, who are you as a person, and do we trust your experience and judgment to build this thing that you're going to say you're going to build, right? And so founder and team is very, very important. And of course, that factor tends to change over time as the company matures and they have more size and scale, because then there's other indicators that you could look at. But in the very early days, it's like, if you're going to go build a deep tech startup, what is your deep tech background, right? That is very, very important. And so you are the story as a founder, right? I think people need to make sure that they remember that, because how you present, how you communicate, the clarity of your vision, or like what are the things that you've done that speak for themselves is super important. The second is the what, in terms of what you've built, right? How differentiated is it? How robust is it? How fresh is it? And essentially when someone with a product background sits down with you, are they going to be blown away, right? And that's how a VC will look at it, right? The third thing is your customers, right? What is your customer impact? Have you solved a problem that immediately gets, especially like your early customers going like, oh my God, such a thing. Like we were talking to a company that does a whole bunch of work around notices from the government, and it's such a niche problem, but at the same time, it's like companies are inundated with notices, and you lose track of them, and guess what? You you might actually get a warrant issued for your arrest if you
100%.
if you miss enough notice,
Compliance.
right?
Yeah.
Compliance, right? Exactly. And so when certain customers look at that, they're like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And so are your customers saying, "Oh my God"? Because if you're yet another X of Y, then they're not going to say, "Oh my God." And then the last metric is essentially the growth metric, right? When you combine those couple of things together, have you been able to distribute? Have you been able to go get customers? Have you been able to forge partnerships? Have you gotten people to pay you your first million or two in recurring revenue, right? And by the way, the founder thing also encapsulates team as well, because that is the team that is going to execute on probably the first, $1 to $5 million in revenue, right? If you got like the right founder, co-founders, and like the early team, they can hire you go from founder-led sales to AEs, one or two AEs, and then you scale from there. And if that's a team that's going to get it done, it basically tells you, yeah, you're going to have a great path through, Series B
Right.
and C. And then when they start to grow, then you run into a completely different gamut of problems. But by that time, you've established, hey, we've arrived, right? We have a seat at the table, right? And just getting that we've arrived signal is super important. So that combination of things is critical to nail.
So, Ryan, you didn't ask me. However, I'm going to
I wasn't
answer.
going to ask you.
Yeah, as you should. But I typically, when I look early stage, probably a little bit earlier than they're looking, I look at the entrepreneur because I'm a bet on the horse. I'm a bet on the jockey, in that situation. I want the jockey to be someone that I just bet on. And you and I know some of the
Sure.
people that you just bet on that. They could be building broomsticks. Doesn't make a difference. I'm betting on the
It's going to be a
jockey.
great broomstick.
It's going to be a great broomstick. The second is the tech itself and how it matches up with the tech that needs to be integrated with, et cetera. So if it's an add-on to a recruiting play, how easy is it to add on? So I look at that. But the third thing is TAM. Is this solving a small problem and doing it in a really cool way, or is it solving a large enough model for me to give a shit? So that's the screens. I've got to have yes, yes, yes before I even move into the next part of the discussion. But it's a little bit earlier stage than what Oz is dealing with. But Oz, for you, the question that I have, and it's curiosity, so there's no right answer. But it seems that Silicon Valley and now Wall Street are starting to fall in love with the employee to revenue ratio. Is that something that y'all are First of all, is that something that y'all are looking at, or do you care about? Or is it a signal that they're not just AI native as a technology, but they're AI native as a team and people? Like, are you looking at that, or do you care about that yet?
It's more to do with the diligence than anything else. It's not the question that sort of like sits at the very top of the stack, but it's an important one in the diligence, because it's like, hey, you say you're doing like and native whatever, but then you've got like a team of like 30 people offshore going through stuff, and it's just like I would be alarmed at that point, because like the what is wrong in that
Right,
case, right? Right.
right, right.
But I think to have that revenue to employee ratio thing.
Mhm.
I think the companies that kind of mess it up for others on this are like the model companies, or like the the dev tooling companies, if you will, right? It is possible for them to distribute super fast. I mean, this might be controversial, and other VCs might say like, "What is this guy talking about?" But some of those actually are like consumer tech companies, in my opinion, because like it's very very easy for anyone with a corporate Amex or an Amex to basically go to what their sites and sign up for like an agent that'll help you code. Um, and you can sign it up for like 10 people, you can sign it up for like 100 or 200, and guess what, people have that need, and so all of a sudden you saw this revenue trajectory that is just like absolutely insane, right? And you don't have that many guys and gals coding for the product for you, and guess all of a sudden like the spreadsheet guys are like, oh, that is what we need to look for. And it's like, really? um, Now what I will say is that with the toolkit that a lot of developers have now, especially when you don't have this need to just I'll call it like you don't have corporate tax, right? You have like startup velocity and startup freedom. You should be able to do more with less, and so your product velocity has to be different. And so when you are AI native, it's like can most of your what I look for is like, can most of your workflows be started with a text prompt, right? And can your software actually react to that text prompt and be like, hey, yeah, that's what I think you want, and then go execute against that. That's what I'm looking for, right? And I'm looking for repeatability, and I'm looking for essentially robustness
And
in that response.
if you're not seeing that, are you automatically discounting them at that point and you're moving on?
If we're not seeing them, then we're looking at your workflow,
Yep.
right? Then we're looking at your workflow, and then we might value you differently.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, so I want to change paths slightly. I don't know how deep you can get into this. I want to open up the hood a little bit on what are the newer or the exciting workforce tech that we all need to know about that we might not really know
Ooh.
about yet that you're seeing. Can you share that information?
I can. Yeah, look, so what's interesting for me is like there's a lot of companies that are doing things differently. Um, but from our vantage point, what's been interesting is to see the Series A's and Series B's that raised like a year or two ago or 3 years ago, um, just really pivot and lean into more AI enabled workflows, right? Um, we've talked to a number of awesome companies that have AI recruiters, um, but doing that end to end, I don't think we're there yet. I think I've seen one, and I'm not going to name them, that actually does sourcing to contact to scheduling an interview. Just one, and a bunch of crazy smart Stanford guys that put that one together. Outside of that, if I was to say, am I seeing that in compensation? Am I seeing that in compliance? Or no, I'm not, because those are hard problems. Um, a lot of HR tech is wrapped in this massive deterministic compliance bubble, bubble wrap. Sorry, not bubble. Um, and 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 navigating that with AI is like you can make it easier. You can make it less friction, but you can't get away from writing all the code that is going to make that thing airtight, so you don't, so you don't get a lawsuit on your hands because you've gone crazy with recruiting, or you end up with employee complaints because you messed up a leave, or
Right.
so the need for the deterministic engines in core HR stays, which is where a lot of our focus is. And so while we're seeing companies that have purported AI native HCMs, which is definitely interesting. There's a couple of them, and there's a few cool ones also in the people tech cohort that recently just happened. Um, they're not they're not like the predominant broader set of companies that are out there. And I'll give you an example. We recently acquired a company called Pequity, and Pequity is compensation management, and this is a team that lived compensation management at organizations like Google, and saw how the best do it, and they decided to productize it. Productizing it is not necessarily AI native, but they used a lot of AI to refine the logic, the checks and balances when you make compensation decisions, They've really worked on their workflows, and more importantly, they focused on this transparent view of what happens across the organization when you make all these crazy compensation decisions, right? Like that is, you know, that elegance in product happening as a result of that is valuable right now, I feel.
I
Right?
was upset. I was upset that you acquired them, by the way, because I'm an investor and advisor to Compa, which is a competitor. So,
Com-
uh,
Compa is
but
awesome. With a lot of
they're
respect for
doing
Compa.
they're doing a great job. They just raised
Comp is
30 million,
next.
so they're doing fine. Not worried about Compa.
No, I wouldn't
Um,
worry about Compa. He's gonna be just fine.
Charlie's gonna be good. We're gonna be good there. Deal flow. Where do you get your deal flow? And I'm specifically I'm thinking conferences and startup competitions and stuff like that. But y'all have systems and databases and access to all kinds of other tools that us normal people don't have access to. But where do you get your deals from?
It's all of the above actually. So a lot of it is, yeah, it's fascinating for me. I felt a lot of it would get a little bit more digitized, but so much of it is through conversations with peers, with advisors, with other VCs, with the I wouldn't say like massively conferences, but the conference basically leads you to sitting down with peers, and people want to compare notes. It's also an unfair advantage of being ADP. We're
Yeah,
very, very visible,
Sure.
and if you are working on something cool and you're
fair.
looking for big distribution, you probably have us on as a logo as people to talk to at some point, and we will get reached out to. But I think the really really smart founders know how to reach out, right? Because you might be working on something cool, but if you reach out for via cold thing, it might just be like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have any other signal other than your cold reach out, right?
Right.
But if someone that we know, whether it's we partner pretty heavily with Sempervirens, they're a fantastic HR tech fund. Um, they know you, or some of our other friends out there in the ecosystem know you, and there's good buzz about you, we'll either find you, or when you find us, we'll be like, yeah, we knew you were coming, right? And so there's a bit of that. And then lastly, I wouldn't, it would be remiss to not talk about the product team at ADP.
Hmm.
They're very sharp, and
Oh yeah,
they
they're
they
looking.
they're looking. They see and they find things that are coming up, and so we spend a lot of time getting their thoughts and inputs as well. So you put it all together, and that's how you find companies. But sorry to extend this topic longer than it needs to be, but I think it's important to kind of know what you want, right? So the way we work is like we generally have like theses that we build, and it's a continuously moving thing, but there's probably like 6 or 7 theses that are ongoing at any point in time. And so if you think of those as like big tree trunks, then we build branches on those theses with regards to what companies are doing, how good are they, how interesting are they, and once the thesis matures enough, then we'll start the outreach. And we'll start to narrow down like who's the best for this particular thesis, and you bring usually someone along with a business unit or a product team in that thesis, because when you find the one, like we found Thatch last year, you're like, oh yeah, and Thatch is an embedded partnership for our insurance brokerage business in the down market. We've sold hundreds of customers together already in less than a year, and that's the magic. When it works beautifully.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for me on how to be found. It's in William and I were having this conversation the other day, I think yesterday actually, where there's pizza shop coming up with names, just basic naming conventions for your company, right? And there's pizza shops that are literally called pizza shop, or a grocery store says grocery. Like, where are you going? I'm going to the pizza shop, and they've been there for 40 years with the name pizza shop, but they're on an off street, right? They're not on a main street somewhere. They're down the road, and you've really got to know they're there in order to know that they're actually there. And this conversation fascinates me because I'm always curious, how does a company get found? Especially some of these companies that we talk to, they're not your typical founders. They're engineers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're an engineer that left Microsoft and they've created a great solution. They can't talk at all, right? They're a real legitimate engineer and they could just build and they don't have anyone to tell their story or know how to be found outside of some of the people that they may or may not know. So I think this conversation is important to share for people that are listening to this because they don't know how to be found. It's not as easy as what we think it is. Just walk up to somebody at an event and get lucky, and that's yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's where most of these founders fall into with great products and they never get found.
So this is the challenge on both sides. Um, you might have someone who's got a phenomenal business idea. They've been an HR practitioner, or they've been like a
Yeah.
chief people officer or something like that. They don't have, they're not an engineer. And so for them to bring that idea to life, they have to find a phenomenal builder. The problem on the other side is where you have a builder who's not, you know, an extrovert or has not been through this motion of learning how to pitch their company and be really out there and, build a brand and sort of have, you know, the it's really the business connects that usually get you through the door, right? Which goes back to if you're a person that encapsulates both, awesome. Like VCs will love you, we will love you because we know that you'll be able to navigate both sides of things, or you'll be able to recruit a team and get things going. But if you're not, this is where like self-awareness is really really important, right? Go find a co-founder. And that's not easy, by the way. I don't want to be nonchalant and be like, oh, go find a co-founder. It's not. No, it's like getting married.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
It
And
might
you're
not
giving
work
up.
out for you.
Yeah, you're getting married, and you're giving up your idea to
You're
somebody
giving up
that
your
you don't
idea.
know.
That's right.
You're going to share the idea going forward.
Right. But again, you have to take risk. I mean, you're already taking a risk in stopping your, I won't call it guaranteed income, but like low risk income from having a job, to do your own thing. And if you're devoting your life to or your professional life to it, then you have to figure out how to de-risk it. And if part of the risk is you, then
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to deal with it.
which is definitely the me in this conversation. So I
100%.
I got two questions, but I'll ask one at a time. One is I'm having an adverse reaction to people, vendors in particular, talking about AI because I think there's two problems with it. One is they're talking over the heads of recruiters and HR in general, and they're talking about the how, how things are built, what the technology is, the zeros and ones, and they're not talking about the outputs. Like this is what it actually does. Who cares how? You shouldn't care how. It's just this is what you get on an output layer. It reminds me eerily. It reminds me of the early part of the internet when people would say HTTPS colon / www, and it's like we don't do any of that anymore. It's you can just put in the name and you don't even have to put anything after the name. You don't have to put a .com or anything else. Google will find it for you. Like, why are we talking about AI? And I mean, I understand from a product perspective, like behind the scenes, making sure that all that stuff flows. Got it. I'm talking about the marketing and the sales language being real heavily focused on AI, generative AI, agentic AI, this AI, that AI. Like, as a practitioner, I don't care. I will never care. You can't force me to care. What does it do? How does it make my life better? How does it make my job easier? How does it
It's
improve the
still
quality
new.
of what? Yeah, it's not that new, Ryan. They've been
Well, it's
marketing
new.
AI at
Yeah,
HR Tech since 2016,
yeah, but it's still
a
new
decade.
in the in the grand scheme. It's still new in the product and sales of it.
But practitioners don't care. They didn't care that it was on-prem. They didn't care that it was SaaS, and they don't care that it's AI. No, now that's me. I'm speaking with my pet peeve. Oz, tear that apart.
It depends on who you are as a practitioner, because if you're part of a large organization, you're not the only one making the decision. You're gonna have a CIO that's gonna go like, "Oh, how secure is this thing? What are
Got
they
it.
gonna do with this AI?" And again, the on-prem thing was like a huge thing for the CIO. That's when CIOs got involved with HR teams and said like, "What is this on-prem crap that you got us on?" Right? And they turned to the CFO and they were like, "You and your on-prem ERP is driving me absolutely crazy. Like, migrate the damn thing, right?" And so it's just like that actually has been a big forcing function to bring more how into the conversation. I think people lack the finesse to sort of turn it on and off based on persona,
Got
right?
it.
'Cause if you're talking to an HR practitioner, you should listen. You only need to give a couple of signals on the AI. Listen, everyone says AI, right? But if you're going to say AI, then say why your AI is different, right? Trained on millions of records of X, but here's what we're able to do, right? We make the product touchless. You don't have to record. This is the I don't know why it's such a thing in our industry where like practitioners have spreadsheets open next to their software because they have to keep track of what they're doing in the software on a spreadsheet on the side, right? Talk about that stuff not happening because you have AI.
You're gonna love this and hate this simultaneously. We've talked about Microsoft Office being the largest HR tech company in the world.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Most
Just
companies are
We've had
stabbing you in the
multiple
heart.
conversations about
yeah,
this. So
yeah.
yes.
We've talked about this. I mean, most companies are displacing Excel and Google Sheets, like
Yeah, and
in a
Right.
lot of
note
their tech. Yeah.
and post-it notes.
Oh,
That's right.
Don't
yeah.
forget post-it notes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Still a thing. Anyhow, Ryan, what's your question?
No, as I know, we've taken up a lot of time. Do you have another question? I mean,
I did
I
only
know you
on
do,
the
but go
on
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I've got actually three or four, but
Oh,
no, we'll just
jeez.
do one. Do you pay attention, or are y'all tracking the AI lawsuits, especially in recruiting right now, right? So Workday, Mobley, but most recently the Eightfold one, et cetera. I think there's about six rolling simultaneously right now. There might be more. But the people we know that are all kind of AI experts in our industry, they're all projecting that that's going to be tenfold by the end of the year. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's 11 months away. We'll see. Are y'all tracking it from a investment perspective? Are y'all tracking those last lawsuits?
I love the AI and recruiting thesis, and we have not made an investment there. That should tell you something.
So the
That's
answer
why
is
you love it. There's no bets on the roulette table. I got it.
yeah,
Smart.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's got popcorn. He's just watching.
He's like, no, no, no. Y'all do that. Y'all are good. Y'all are
Look,
good.
it's like because it's so easy to inject AI into recruiting. Like, I mean, it's I don't want to get into trouble here, but
You can do it over a
it's like
weekend. Yep.
yeah. Look, there's no code violation or anything that you're going to do, but now regulation has introduced that, right? Finding people just like sorting through resume, doing a string match, now doing what do you call it, a generative breakdown of the CV and doing a match on that side, applying logic, reasoning, and all that sort of stuff. It's like anybody that knows nothing about recruiting can get in, right? And again, it's like it's a really really intensive job for recruiters because you have to source through so much data to get to the person that you want, and so many things go wrong in the middle of that. And typically, what is the thing that CEOs yell at their chief people officer about? Usually, you're not hiring people fast enough.
Sure.
You know, not if you start to have too much turnover, you can turn to your line leaders and be like, "What are you doing to your teams?" As opposed to like the HR person being right. What does the HR person get blamed for? It's like you're not getting us the right talent in the right seats fast enough, right? And so a lot of money gets spent there. A lot of people go gaga over it, and all sorts of tech has been put in that maybe plays around with people a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like there's a lot of focus on it. I really hope we get it right but we've been on this massive like recruiting journey with Recruit Holding and LinkedIn and God knows who else for a long time. I think the story is yet to play out more. I would love to find the right entry point for us to invest and do something. By the way, I have a recruiting product in the we also have ADP's product lab. We have a recruiting product in the lab, but it's more on the side of building a talent pool, because a lot of people apply to ADP clients, right? So to build a talent pool and actually see if we can bring up silver medalists to our customers, I think that's a very desirable thing to do. And so hopefully we'll do more stuff there. But the lawsuits are real. There's a camp that says they will be dismissed, which is more on the vendor camp. And there's a camp that's not on the vendor camp that says they're going to have to settle in, and it's going to set a precedent. So I'm really curious to see what happens with these, but these lawsuits are slow, they take time.
This has been amazing. We've learned a lot. It was a fun conversation. So thank you all for coming on. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Oz, for coming on. To the audience, we'll see you next time.
Pleasure. Thank you.